Welcome to the Business Mechanic Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund. Today's topic is going to be on the essential skills every manager needs to lead confidently. Have you ever heard the old term, and I'm sure you have, fake it till you make it? That advice may have helped previous generations like mine leap up the corporate ladder, but in today's data-driven, continuously disrupted world of work, pretending your way to the top doesn't work. And it wreaks havoc on your confidence level, not to mention your stress level. Here's a fact. The most prevalent, predominant, common management training approach deployed today is learning by trial and error. Here's how this works. Companies promote great employees, maybe ones like yourself. They promote them into a management position and believe that companies promote great employees into management positions and believe that somehow, magically, they'll just become great managers. And there comes the experience paradox. See, experience does not bring any guarantee that someone is likely to be a good manager. They have to be trained. And they have to be trained to be not only a good manager, but a good leader. And yes, some people, in fact, figure it out on their own, but that is a very small group and a very special group. Now think about this just for a second. A company promotes a good employee to a management position. Happens thousands of times, maybe more, every day. But what they don't realize, that the statistical chance that this newly promoted manager will be effective, be successful, is pretty low. In fact, according to Gallup, and these are statistics from multiple reports, and I also checked this out on multiple data sites, 80%, somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of all managers, new managers promoted, fail. 80% failure rate. Wow. So what happens? What happens to these managers? Well, they stay on and they continue with poor leadership and the poor results that poor leadership brings. All the time, these ineffective leaders, and they don't want to be, they're not trying to be, but the only excuse they have for things not working out very well, for not getting their jobs done well, is they want to blame it on their employees. You know, it's really hard to hire good people. Sound familiar? Well, friends, I've been hearing that since the 70s. That has nothing to do with today and today's employee or generational. It's been a challenge for decades and decades and decades. So back to these managers. These managers in position, they're failing 80% of the time, and they either quit because it's uncomfortable for them, or they get fired. Less likely. The most likely is they stay around with their ineffectiveness, and that may be you. And the fact that you're listening to this today says a lot about you, a lot of positive things about you. But these bad ones who leave, they get recycled. They get recycled due to this experience paradox. This experience paradox is prevalent in a lot of positions and a lot of companies, but think about this, you know, this person who quit or got fired, they go on Indeed or Monster or someplace and post the resume, and a company comes along and says, we need a manager. And oh, this person has experience actually in the industry that we're in. And they hire this ineffective leader because they have experience. They don't know that they're ineffective. That's the paradox. Now comes the outcomes that previously had in the previous employer, and they're ineffective again. And again, they don't try to be, they just are, because they don't know another way. And then it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And this has led inadvertently, I don't think anybody's ever planned this inadvertently led to some highly unintended consequences that are pretty bad. And many of you who are fans of the Business Mechanic Show have heard these stats before, but according to Gallup, from a 2021 survey, which is the worst year on record for employee engagement, but it only went up 3% from previous years. Wasn't a huge jump. 73% of the millions of employees surveyed are disengaged. They don't care much about their employer, don't care much about their job, and they'd leave tomorrow if a better offer came along. And of the ones who actually quit, 50% of those who quit cited their reason as being a poor manager, poor leadership. So what does that mean? Well, I'm being a little brutal to you right now, either as an employer or as a manager. But again, you're looking for help. You're listening to the Business Mechanic Show. If you're complaining about how certain employees display lack of initiative, they don't seem to care, they gossip, they show up late, they take a lot of extra time off, these employee behaviors may have been created by their manager. Whoa. Whoa, did I just say that? Yes, I did. Think about that. How many, just put yourself in these shoes. How many managers realize that this is on them, that they are likely the cause for employee underperformance, for employees showing lack of care, just not doing a good job? Not many managers recognize that. You may have recognized you've got areas you can grow in, and you're here today. You're seeking solutions. Good on you. But the fact that most don't, the majority don't, well, that's what's brought this all about. It's rinse and repeat, and they're never going to get better. They don't just magically get up one day and say, oh, I'm a great manager. They've got to get direction. They've got to get advice. They've got to get coaching. They've got to get development. They've got to get training. That's what you're here for. Now I'm going to share, before I get to all the things you need to be a confident, effective leader, I'm going to share another experience from my 40-year business career. 100% of the time, when I had an underperforming location, underperforming team, whether it was in a store, a region, a department, whether it was sales, operations, business operations, accounting, if I had a team, a location, even a group of locations that was underperforming, 100% of the time, I could always tie it back to the manager. Always. Even when I tried to talk myself out of it, and I did try to talk myself out of it, I tried to convince myself due to blind spots or optimism or whatever, that it wasn't the manager's fault. And it was always the manager's fault. In fact, I would often make one difficult change to this underperforming team, store, whatever it was, make one, it was always difficult change, and it would quickly, and I mean quick, change the performance of a location or a team, an operation. I changed the manager. What? Tell me more, Vaughn. Well, I changed them in two ways. Change is kind of it's got a broad definition. I attempted to change them in this way. I'd train them up. I'd find the resources to get them the help, provide the knowledge, the tools that they needed to grow into the leader that they had to be successful. And I truly believe that leaders can be made. Not everyone, but there's willingness to learn. There's willingness to soak stuff up like a sponge, get uncomfortable, learn and grow, make the improvements. Those people can be leaders. And I believe that is a lot of people out there. And for those who have self-identified themselves as unwilling to make the change, I don't believe any of this. All this leadership is a bunch of bunk. I'm not making any adjustments. I'm not getting uncomfortable. Vaughn's full of crap. Well, I moved on to my second choice. And it was a very effective approach too. I let them go. They made the choice. You can either get the help and make the changes, and I will provide you all I can provide you. There is not a resource that I won't provide you. And if you don't choose, because now they're making a choice, they don't choose to get better, I did my part. Goodbye. And I brought in someone who had proven themselves, because I couldn't put two bad managers back to back. I had to make extra sure that the replacement had proven themselves, was really good. So I replaced them with someone who was effective, proven themselves effective, or willing to learn how to be a great manager and leader. And I can assure you this, those managers that I let go, the ones that today are struggling, maybe you have recognized you got opportunities to get better at what you do. No manager gets up in the morning, goes to work intending to do a poor leadership job or poor management job. Unless they're a psychopath, I don't think anybody gets up and goes to work wanting to do a good job. They just don't. But here's the facts. They simply don't know what they don't know. And if they're willing to get some knowledge, make some changes, they can be great. But it takes work. So that's the challenge. And they don't know because they rarely have a manager who is willing to give them the feedback. That's a whole nother podcast. But most bosses do a really crappy job of performance feedback with their managers. Let me point this out. I got to get a shameless plug in here. I have a great development and coaching solution for that point. And if you're a boss of managers, you've got to learn more. Contact me. Vaughn at rdltraining.com. Our website is rdltraining.com. Send me a contact message. Send me an email. That's romeodeltalima.com. Hey, while you're there, check out all the other services we offer, the development, coaching, all good stuff. You might find something else you might be interested in while you're in there. But back to the point, you can make your team much more productive and effective. So let's talk. I've got the links to the website and my email down in the show notes. So scroll down. Let's talk. Now, let's move on to the meat of this. This is the point at which managers can become great leaders, when they are provided the training and coaching in the areas they need to improve. But they've got to take this training, they've got to take this development and apply it. They've got to apply this knowledge. That's how we learn. We've got to practice the skills. And when they do that, they emerge as more confident and effective leaders. And again, by listening to this, you're proving that you're one of those. If you're a key decision maker in any organization looking for help for your management team or your entire team, this is where we got to go. You've got to provide training. You got to help them out. Maybe you need it first, but let's work on your team. You got to give them the feedback. Now, let's talk about this leadership thing. This applies to both bosses of bosses and managers of teams. In the age of transparency, people will absolutely see through any bluff, bluster, or faking. You know, I started out this show with you fake it till you make it. It won't work. They'll see right through it. You can't fake it, friends. You have to be genuine. You have to be vulnerable. You have to admit you don't know certain things. But let me tell you, there's one thing that if you get this right, you'll start winning the hearts and minds of the people who work with you. The first thing to focus on, really simple, but it's not done very well, I can tell you, is do what you say you're going to do. Not just when somebody brings you a need, they bring you a problem, they bring you a situation to you, find a solution and fix it. Follow through with it. Get it done. Don't be one of these people that says, yeah, I'll take care of that over and over again during the course of a week. And then you never take care of that. And it's easy. You got a lot going on. It's easy to lose track of some of the things, but you've got to remember the power of your words on the psyche of the people. This is leadership, folks, on the psyche of the people who are working with you. If you say you're going to do something, that's what they heard. And now they're looking for you to do something. Follow through with it. And you also, in conjunction with this, you need to be able to make strong, secure decisions. The only way to do that is to get yourself some real world leadership experience. And that's what I'm just talking about. If somebody brings you a situation, that's a leadership opportunity. Make the decision, help them out, fix it, and move on. I mean, I just in case, I want to tell you one of my favorite leadership stories. I once had a location in Las Vegas, Nevada, that I swore was built on some ancient burial ground with ghosts and goblins, and anything that could go wrong went wrong in this location. And I am vulnerable too. You know, I wanted to blame it on a lot of things, but realized each and every time something was going wrong, I learned very, very, very valuable lessons from this. Every time something went wrong, it was the doggone manager's fault. So like I said earlier, I could not replace, because I'd already done it twice, a bad manager with a bad manager. I had to go find somebody to really get this place fixed with the true leadership skills that were going to be required to get it fixed. And I reached out to a gentleman that was not hired for this. We had never in the beginning talked about him ever having to go to Las Vegas, but thank God Mike agreed to do that. So I reached out to Mike. I asked him to do me the favor of going over and taking over this store and getting it fixed. And Mike agreed to. And I'll forever be indebted to him for doing that. So Mike goes to Las Vegas, and Mike is truly a proven, highly effective leader. And this is just an example of just one of 1,000 things that Mike did to get this place turned around. We had a group of auto technicians who were very disengaged, and they were very vocal about their disengagement. So Michael meets with them. He confronts it head on. And he wants to hear what their situation is. What's going on with you? How can I help you fix what's going on around here? And one of them, there's always a spokesperson with groups like this. And one of them says, well, Mike, you make us go to lunch all at the same time. And what is it? 12 of us. All go to lunch at the same time. Mike, look behind me. This is taking place in the break room. Look behind me. How many microwaves you see here? One. So Mike, how do you expect 12 of us to come in and in 30 minutes get all our lunches warmed up in one microwave, eaten, and back to work? Huh, Mike? Mike says, you got a great point. Let me do something about that. While we're on the subject, Mike, how many employees work here? I said, I don't know, 100, 125. Yeah, it's about 125. Okay, Mike, how many refrigerators you see here? One. Mike, how do you expect 125 people to get their lunches they brought to work into one refrigerator? Mike says, I got you. Let me do something about it. Cutting a very long story short, meeting breaks up. Mike immediately walks out to the display area. This was at a CarMax location. Grabs a pickup truck, drives a couple blocks down the road, buys a couple refrigerators, 4 microwave ovens, loads them up in the truck. And within 2 hours, Mike's back with new refrigerators, new microwaves. Before those technicians went home at the end of the day, they had to come into the break room to punch out. They walked in and Mike solved the problem. That is just a great example of leadership. They brought a problem to him, even as mundane or as simple as it sounded, and he did something about it. He owned the minds of those technicians immediately for their own out. He now has earned the right to ask his team, by the way, this has affected everybody in the store. He now has earned the right. He's listened. He's done something about it. This guy's great. Simple as buying a refrigerator and a few microwaves. He may have spent $1,500. To some companies, a lot of money, but to us, that wasn't a lot of money. Simple solution, but he did something about it. And when your team, no matter how trivial it may seem to you, the fact that they bring a situation to you makes it not trivial. And you've got to listen to that and do something about it. That's leadership. Now, here's some other tips I want to share with you. I'll get off of that one. Hopefully that makes a big point with you all. Here's some of my other best tips and the skills you need to acquire to gain the subsequent confidence you need to stand out as a prime, confident leader and manager. Understanding that getting where you are didn't make you lucky. You worked hard. You worked hard as an employee somewhere to get promoted. That makes you exceptional. Now let's help you take advantage of this opportunity. You got there by hard work. You don't have to wait for anyone to give you direction or advice now that you're a manager. Go seek your own advice. Go seek your own development. In fact, you're not likely to get any from your boss. That scenario situation, unfortunately, comes with a management position. You will not get a whole lot of feedback, either from your employees or from your boss. You're there. You're going to have to be self-directed, self-motivated to go get your help. That's why you're here today. It's not right. But as I mentioned earlier, most bosses don't know how to do it or even do it. So here you are. You're here today. You're listening to this, and you're seeking ways to improve because you know you can, or you know you should. And again, good on you. I always understand we make our own luck. Nobody gets lucky and successful. They work hard to be successful. And by you being proactive and seeking out a development opportunity, a development resource, that's how you're going to get better. But you can read all the books in the world. You can listen to all the podcasts, watch all the videos you want to. But you got to practice. The best way to learn any activity is to do it yourself. Practice it. Apply your newfound knowledge immediately, as quickly as possible. You read a leadership book, you listen to a podcast, you read an article, a blog, you get something that resonates. Yes, I need to work on that. Pick one, maybe two things at the most. One's the best. Work on one thing you want to improve on. Study the topic. Go get as much information as you can. to YouTube and blogs and podcasts. There's unlimited amounts of resources for free for you. Then identify that element and start working on it. Keep it short, keep it simple, take it one step at a time. But just keep getting better, a little better every day. Get 1% better every day. And also realize that there's going to be setbacks. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to get in your way. Things are going to go wrong. Don't quit. Stay with it. And I promise you will improve and gain more confidence. You've got to adopt the practice of what's called micro-learning. And the best models for learning today are not always the old school setups. What really works today and is fast-paced as everything is sprint-like learning. Choose that topic, get a clear need, choose that topic, and go work on it. Apply it, practice it. We learn by missing, frankly, of what not to do next time. And we keep eliminating the misses. We keep eliminating the misses, and we keep getting better and better and better. And by the way, you'll get instant feedback from your team, your results. And you'll understand more and more how to continue improving. And again, if you're an employer, you may not offer some designated set of courses for micro-learning. You can get them from us, Results-Driven Leadership. We've got them. We've got a full video training package that are quick, easily consumed on all the topics, the basics, the fundamentals that your team needs. rdltraining.com. One more plug. Focus the coming days, folks, on being more inspiring. This is the second point I want to make to you. You know, you can't be rah-rah and be motivational. You can't be rah-rah. You can't be a cheerleader and be an effective manager. But you can be inspiring. Little by little, if you are catching people doing it right and giving them positive feedback, catching them with issues that they're missing, that they're making mistakes on, fix it, get them doing it right, little by little. That training that you're applying for yourself rubs off on the people around you. Here's one. If you want to improve your team, you want to inspire your team, you want to motivate your team, you want to get better at your job, give or ask for assignments that are outside of your normal course of responsibility. But make sure that if you assign it to somebody else, that there's somebody that's going to do an outstanding job on it. They're going to take it seriously and go do something with it. And if you take on an assignment to develop yourself, go do an outstanding job on it. Put the extra work into it. Because it's not simply about taking more work, getting assignments. That's just a fast track to burnout. It's about being strategic and getting the assignment or assigning it that are outside of your wheelhouse. You got to get uncomfortable. And it should be something that plays an important supporting role in either the overall company success or your team's success. Stretch your comfort zone. Explore your untapped capabilities. You honestly, until you tap into that and try yourself, you have no idea what you're capable of. Next thing, be brilliant at the basics. Becoming a full-fledged leader means that more than dressing the part or acting the part or wearing the name badge, you know what you're doing. To rise up the ranks, you must take ownership. Your team must take ownership of this expected progress and rewards every time they reach a new level of strength or accomplishment. And you as an individual, in developing yourself, just strive for being a little better than everybody else. Take pride in that. Be slightly better at building the skill sets that's going to make you a highly effective leader. We live in a world, frankly, today that the bar is set pretty low. You heard the stats earlier. The bar is pretty low. Any effort you put into it that the outcome is improvement, you're going to smoke anybody else that you're working with, any of your coworkers, your counterparts. Because your highest priority as a manager or leader within the organization is ensuring that your company runs smoothly. And it's not about the title, it's about your actions. Great leaders are those who are able to balance the big picture of the company mission with the finer details of how the employees contribute or align to the achievement of business goals. Here's the next one. It's really important. These are so easy, by the way. You just hadn't thought about them. These are so easy. Just think about how simple this is. Work on the ability to see others' perspectives. Again, I could do another whole podcast, and I need to do this soon, but I have a similar podcast on dealing with difficult people. It's one of my most listened to podcasts. Every manager needs to be able to put themselves in the shoes of their employees. And if you can understand the employee's perception of reality, you can understand what motivates them and what success looks like from their perspective. Very often when people are being difficult, unruly, disagreeable, it's because they haven't been heard. They don't have a connection with you. One of the most fundamental needs of human beings is to be listened to. Tap into that. Take advantage of that. Listen to people. You can better align their needs, their skills with what the company or your team needs, what you need as a leader. When you listen, you understand more about them, what they want. Excellent managers know how to create space, listen, paraphrase, have the ability to effectively structure a conversation that encourages self-reflection. Ask questions. Support your employees rather than solving problems. Get this, rather than solving problems, which require, they don't need you to do that, but they want you to do that. Help them solve their own problem. Bring them into it. What do they want to do? Now, this requires you maintaining a presence and validation instead of immediately responding to everything, though, with a yes or a no solution, or do this, solution, move on. Slow down a little bit. Connect with that employee. Get their perspective on it. Listen to them. You've got to have curiosity. That breeds the best conversations. When you're curious, truly curious, if you go into your day-to-day activities with a curious mind, that breeds conversations. Those conversations are your secret weapon because they will continue coming and discussing things with you. You'll learn more, know more. You'll be able to solve more, be more proactive with things when you're understanding things from the employee's perspective. But you can only do that if you're curious, you're asking questions, you're being involved, you're available. Because when you're curious, your mindset, it opens up. It shows you're interested in their ideas and thoughts. And again, back to the most basic human need is to be listened to. When you do that, you got it. You're so much further ahead than where you started. Now, back to allowing them to come up with their own solutions, it's really hard for a lot of leaders, a lot of managers to let go of control and to switch to empowering their employees to find their own path to what's expected. They just want to tell them. Telling them is not the best course. You got to work on your ability for drawing out of them, the creating the self-discovery they need to get done what they want to get done, to improve, or to simply solve a problem. Self-discovery. And then, which brings me to the next part of this, the next skill that you need to have is the ability to ask open-ended questions. Because in our rush to just solve problems, because we've got 100 of them a day we got to deal with, we just want, boom, give them the answer, move on, boom, give them the answer, move on. Slow yourself down, because this brings you less problems. If you will do this for a period of time, ask open-ended questions: who, what, when, where, how. One of the greatest leaders I ever worked with said this to me once: my job is to listen to what everyone has to say, and if needed, make decisions or do something about it. But I had to listen. But I can only listen and do something about it if I have all the information. You got to ask questions. Keep asking questions until you have all the information you can. And listen, for sure, always remember, there's 3 sides to every story. Get all the information you can before you create your own paradigm or opinion on what a situation is. Because if you go into a situation uninformed without all the information and all the perspectives from all the parties involved in the situation, you go in guns blazing, you're setting yourself up for a big fall. It's going to be painful. Slow down. And don't ever do it when you're emotional. Something's made you mad if you're worked up. That's all in my communication training, but I'll offer again my 24-hour rule. There's almost nothing that has to be dealt with right now, unless we're evacuating because of a fire. Slow it down, give it the 24-hour rule, deal with it tomorrow when your emotions are settled. That's a tip. But back to communication. Communication is one of those skills that the better you get at it, the better and more confident you'll be as a leader. You've got to be effective at leadership. Being able to communicate your thoughts, your needs in a positive, constructive way, that makes all the difference. Yet so many managers, and they don't know any better, they don't know what they don't know, but so many managers believe that telling is communicating, and it's not. You have to create dialogue and abandon the one-way monologue with your employees. This is just one of the fundamentals that when you become a manager, you've got to be able to develop and learn and be able to deploy. You cannot monologue your way to success and being an effective leader. You can manage that way. Yes, absolutely. You can manage that way, but you will never become a competent, highly effective leader. You've got to create dialogue, ask questions. It's something you really need to work on, be conscious of. If not, you're never going to move to the next level. You're going to be stuck. You'll never get all the results that you or your team are capable of. Next tip, you've got to be proactive and have the ability to adapt. Leaders must be able to adjust their management style, their communication style in response to different situations. So I'll just give you a quick example. During the COVID crisis, I had to transition quickly because I could have lost my business very quickly had I allowed others to control what was going on. No, I'm going to take control. So I had to transition from my usual coaching leadership style to a more decisive, immediate, centralized approach to manage all the information that was coming out. I had to help my clients navigate uncharted waters and help them make decisions at a speed that was necessary for the time. And I had weekly webinars. I had weekly coaching sessions, sometimes daily. It was complete change. I was putting out information like I'd never put out information before. And my business grew at 150% during one of the worst years ever because of that proactiveness, my awareness that I needed to adapt. I made something happen rather than things happening to me. And I can tell you, I've heard through multiple pipelines that many of my competitors really suffered during that time because they did not take the approach that we did. And I can tell you, my partners joined on this too. We got together one Saturday morning and said, there's no better time for us to be the greatest resource in the history of training and coaching. And we did. We produced a lot of great information and helped a lot of people navigate. But it sounds like I'm bragging on me, and I am a little bit, but it's the example of, and I'm having these conversations right now around inflation and different things, is how's that going to affect your business? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it that you're not doing today? There's got to be other things you can do that you're not doing today that you get ahead of a situation. Adapt. Overcome, be proactive. Don't just sit around, wait on something to happen to you. Go make something happen. That's a great leader. I get a little worked up about that one. Another tip is you have to be really good at time management. Now, time management is a whole nother big structure, and I've got multiple blogs and videos on that. But let's talk about time management as it comes to being an effective leader. I don't want to underestimate the value of being a good listener and empathetic leader. I've said it 100 times now, but when you can't find time for your team, if you can't find an hour or so multiple times during the week to work with your team and have one-on-one conversations with them, you have a really big problem. And the most common excuse managers make, the ones they list for not spending more time with their direct reports, having good, helpful conversations, is I don't have time. Too busy. Well, you know what? You're right. You don't have time. You have to make the time to do it, because it's one of those things that if you don't change your course, you're going to keep experience what you're getting. You know, what got you here won't get you there. Here's another, I'm full of great sayings today, but if you're not willing to change, you're going to hate extinction. You got to change. Because what's slowing you down right now are all the grenades and the fires, the great grenades that are thrown at you and the fires you have to fight every day, all the problems you have to solve. And you're spending a lot of additional time on urgent, but maybe not that important stuff. And if you start having these conversations, making the time to work with your team, listen to them, give them direction, give them advice, give them developmental feedback, pat them on the back, make connections with them, be more inspiring, get them bought into you as a leader. All of a sudden, the grenades, the fires, they start dissipating. They never disappear. That's utopia. But they sure get less frequent, far less frequent. That's the byproduct of having and utilizing these steps as a leadership approach. Next step. Another one I see on a regular basis that people just don't realize they're doing it. And it's because they're so busy or thinking about other things, they don't understand the impact of some of the decisions they make on all those around them and how it makes them look. And that's being consistent. Consistent. If you're swinging from one extreme to the next, it absolutely creates dysfunction and confusion with your team. If you're laying down the law 1 minute and then never holding anyone accountable the next, or if you're saying that, yeah, this is the last time I'm going to say this, and then you don't do it, 2 weeks later, you're talking about it again. you're doing yourself and your employees a huge disservice. Find your standards, hold your standards, and do so consistently. Being inconsistent in how you apply expectations and rules and policies drives your team crazy. Because when the rules and application of rules becomes ambiguous and confusing, your leadership is eroded. And the lack of trust starts creeping in. And when they don't trust you, well, your leadership is dramatically diminished. You've got to be consistent. You've got to apply things, rules, follow through consistently. Let me also get a plug in here. Even in your moods, be consistent with your moods. You are not allowed to have a bad day. Once you become a leader in an organization, you're not allowed to have bad days. You've got to get your game face on and come in there and act your way through being positive and interactive and supportive of your team. You can't have bad days. Next tip, which is all kind of along these same lines, but I want to pull it out because I think it's important. That's your ability to learn true emotional intelligence. It's one of those valuable skills that you must have to be effective at leadership. It has a super high ROI for you and your company. The research shows that workplace emotional intelligence improves efficiency, productivity, customer service, turnover. It just makes for better leaders. You don't have to be tough. You don't have to be demanding. You don't have to be a jerk about things. And yes, if you're willing to learn to master these soft skills, you're going to be a better leader. And by the way, I'm just going to say this very bluntly, and I've been known to say a lot of blunt things. You've heard a few on the show today. If you think that soft skills are mamby-pamby and for a bunch of wussies, quit. Get out of management today, please. Because you're letting your employer down, you're letting your team down, you're making everybody miserable. I'm off that one now. Managers, back to EQ, emotional intelligence. Managers who tap into emotional intelligence and have an empathetic approach to leadership are driving huge improvements in engagement with their teams. Those teams perform the best. I think it's, I forget what the statistic is, but it's like 1,200% better when you've got a team that's bought in with a highly emotionally intelligent boss. They crush everybody else because of their inspiration and drive and loyalty. Have you ever heard of being a servant leader? That was a big term about a decade ago, maybe more. Managers who master that skill and facilitate an open, collaborative environment where employees are motivated to show up, and they are positively impacting the organization. It's an amazing tool, and you can learn to do it. And it's one of the underlying things of all the tips I've given you today is you've got to be emotionally intelligent. It's about them and understanding their needs. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of a jerky reversal here. You also have to, and this is EQ2, is this is the next tip, you've got to be able to give direct feedback, because it's human nature, most of us have it, to try and avoid difficult or uncomfortable conversations as a manager. It's critical to provide honest and direct feedback to your employees. And time is of the essence here. the sooner to the event they receive either the positive or developmental feedback, the more effective that conversation will be. It's not going to be the most pleasant conversation you have, but by providing this feedback, you gives your employees the best opportunity to address any issue, and then to be able to go on and achieve long-term success. Get over your fears. Get over your fears of giving tough feedback or developmental feedback. And oh, by the way, according to Gallup, 86% of employees out of the millions they surveyed want this feedback, but their bosses aren't giving it to them. And just like you want to go to work and do a good job every day, nobody comes to work wanting to do a bad job, a poor job. They don't want to come to work and be lousy. Help them grow and learn. One of my favorite sayings is, we are constantly mad at someone not doing something we did not tell them to do. I'll say that again. Let this one sink in a little bit. We are constantly mad at someone not doing something we didn't tell them to do. How many times you got mad, either at home or at work, frustrated, worked up with someone who's not doing what they're supposed to do? But the fact of the matter is, you never really told them to do it. You never told them how, when, why. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? So generally the performance problem will not fix itself. Don't bury your head in the sand and avoid it and think it's going to fix itself. Go have that conversation, but be empathetic, be encouraging. Make the tone of the conversation encouraging, not discouraging. Think about that. You've got to go in with the right mindset. The next tip is, you've got to have the ability, you must have the ability to authentically connect with each and every team member that you have. Gone are the days that your team show up and just blindly follow you. Long gone. Command and control is dead and buried. And if you are still trying to use command and control as a management style today, you're going to fail. You're going to fail more often. You're going to succeed. And your people are not going to like you very much. But yet this command and control is probably the most prevalent approach that managers use today as their method of managing people. It's bewildering. But what your employees want is to feel connected, inspired, and passionate about that work. That's what they want. And I'm pretty sure that's what you want them to want. And to lead and to coach, you must know how to connect with them on an individual basis. What motivates them? What are their goals in life? What are they afraid of? How can you help them move along to what they want to? Great leadership starts with connection. And back to the one-on-one meetings, if you're not regularly having these, and as part of that, getting to know better and better your employees on a professional basis, then you're missing out on a key leadership component. People work for people, not companies. And the old saying, here's another one today. The old saying is, people join companies and they leave bosses. And connecting with them and making them loyal to you, respectful of you, they love you and are inspired by you as a leader. They work for you, friends. It's the easiest way. Get a connection with them, build that relationship. It's one of the easiest ways to be a well-respected boss. Get to know them, understand their goals, what their interests, where they want to be, what they want out of life. And if they want to bring some issues they may be having outside of work to you, okay, be a good listener. Don't try to be an armchair psychologist, however. So with that, I'm going to end it. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to the Business Mechanic Show. Hey, do me a favor, like and share this program. Come visit our website, rdltraining.com, for more information. Sign up for our weekly newsletter and updates. Stay in touch, stay informed, and we'll talk to you all again soon.